Okay,
Okay.
great. So as I said earlier in the team meeting this morning, if you were on it, this is a very timely subject, cybersecurity. It's really important, and it can cost a a lot of money to a brokerage and to a client. So it's really important to know about this. So let me share my screen. Okay, so there we go. All right. Cyber crimes in real estate transactions. As I said earlier, I had cheat sheet, sorry. I had gotten these slides from a presentation that I saw, and I thought it would be great to share with you guys. So cyber attacks are on the rise, especially during this time of COVID pandemic. As many said earlier in the team meeting, everything's done online. We were forced to do everything online because we were stuck at home. So cyber crime will cost the U.S., just the U.S., $6 trillion by the end of the year. So, that's a lot of money. The FBI stats, one of the most prevalent fraud schemes targeting business today. In 2020, the IC3, which the IC3 is the Internet Complaint Center, received almost 20,000 BEC complaints, and BEC is business email compromise complaints, with adjusted losses over $1.8 billion and over $1.2 billion more than the next highest reported crime. That's a lot of money, guys. So title companies, law firms, realtors, sellers, and buyers are some of the most often targeted victims of wire fraud. Losses over 220 million are reported in real estate transactions through August 2020, which is a 13% increase from the same period in 2019. So what was different? We were in the middle of a pandemic and we were stuck online, and that's what was different between those two timeframes. A 13% increase. So here's what you need to look out: phishing, vishing, and smishing. Those are the three things you need to look out. Now, we all have heard of phishing. So spoofed emails, caller ID spoofing, email rule manipulation. So these are cyber crimes that people are perpetrating on our industry. So phishing, vishing, and smishing. The IC3, once again, it's the Internet Complaint Center, has reported massive increase in phishing scams designed to get recipients to click on links or open attachments. That's what phishing is. So we've all gotten that email where they say, "Oh, I've got this new document for you." I've gotten these emails that say from a supposed agent saying, "Here's that document I promised you," or something to that. And this, by opening these emails, it leads to the release of malware, which could lead to exposure of login credentials, exposure of corporate networks, exposure of confidential data, and ransomware. Now, ransomware is where they take control of your computer and they won't release anything until you pay them money. That's why it's called ransomware. So the phishing schemes, the domain, sorry, I had to move everybody down. The domain in the sending email is not associated with the settlement service company referred as the sender. A settlement service company is like an escrow company or a title company. The sender is not somebody you have direct contact with or recognize. The email is highly generic. It references closing statements or other closing related documents, but does not reference an active transaction. And the email or attachment is unsolicited or not expected. These are things on how to recognize phishing schemes. Gosh, wait, I gotta move. Sorry, I gotta move you again because you're in the way of changing my thing. Okay. Spoofed emails. Email spoofing is a fabrication of an email header in hopes of deceiving the recipient. The end game is to get the recipient to open an attachment, click on a link, or take action based on the information in the email. Spoofing is successful since the simple SMTP, I never knew what that stood for, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, does not authenticate email addresses. Fraudsters also set up their own domains that mimic reputable companies. So here's an example of a spoofed email. It looks legitimate. You know, our accounting department just notified the wires detail I sent you earlier have been compromised. Please use our subsidiary account in the attached instructions. Sorry for the inconvenience. So what's different from this, as you will see, if you look at the email address is different in that it doesn't come from the same domain. The regular email address is Christensen at fnf.com, whereas in the spoofed email, it's fn-f.info. They're totally different. So it's coming from a totally different email address. So that's one way to realize if you have a compromised email. So that's phishing. Now, caller ID spoofing. Caller ID spoofing is basically they can spoof any. We've all gotten these emails that it looks like it's a number that is associated with your region. And you know, it even probably has the same three numbers in the beginning of your own phone number, and you pick it up, and it's come across my desk about your car warranty is up. I've been getting the same call about the car warranty on a car that I haven't owned in 20 years. So that's what caller ID spoofing is. It's they can spoof whatever phone number they want to. They can make it look like it's coming from a specific company. We've all heard of these scams where they are calling and saying that they are from the FBI and that something has happened and that you have to give them information in order to clear your name or whatever. And the caller ID on your phone says FBI or Federal Bureau of Investigation. And it looks like the call is actually coming from the FBI. Well, until you actually verify where that call is from, and by verify, I say hang up or go to another phone. And for those of you who have a landline or whatever, go to another phone and actually get the number of the actual FBI and verify this information. You don't know where that call is really coming from. So that's what caller ID spoofing is. And they can really mimic any any entity, any phone number. So be very careful of that. Now, going back to phishing, remember, it's all about clicking on an attachment. Another thing that it also does is once you've done that, if you've mistakenly done that, and they get into your system, doesn't mean that they're going to do anything right then and there. They're going to wait, and they're going to see what you do, how you word your emails. You know, you may not see a detrimental effect from that clicking on that thing until months later. It's not instantaneous. So that's phishing, caller ID spoofing, email rule manipulation. Here's what it is strongly suggests: that you can automatically forward your messages to another email address. You can choose to forward all new messages or just certain ones. So this can be done within your own, like your Gmail or whatever mail system you use. Forward it to a different email account. Real estate schemes, criminals begin the wire fraud scheme long before the attempted theft occurs. Like I said, they're getting into your system, they're looking at your system, they're looking how the fraudsters are sending emails that look legitimate and include facts specific to the transaction, targeting all participants of the real estate transaction, gaining entry into their computer systems and posing as those parties via compromised emails. So this affects real estate agents, brokers, transaction coordinators, buyers, sellers, escrow companies. We don't use closing attorneys, escrow companies, lenders, and loan officers. This happens long before, and it is a planned thing. So educate your clients, talk with your escrow companies you do business with, and learn the procedures of who, where, and when closing funds and provide the closing funds and the wire instructions are coming. Don't assume all emails received are legitimate. That's really important. We all just get an email and we think, oh, it's, you know, this is legitimate, but we all have that spidey sense that, oh, well, there's something a little off on this. So trust those instincts. So be careful about opening attachments and downloading files from emails, even if it appears it's from somebody you know. Here was a scheme that was going around, that is going around, to, you know, due to COVID, all closing funds should be wired to our trust account. Well, that's really not happening. You know, everybody is using COVID as an excuse, and even fraudulent people are using COVID as an excuse. So be careful. And look, closing.com at gmail.com. An escrow company is not going to use Gmail as their escrow. You know, it's really really look at these email addresses, because you can, somebody's name could appear here. My name could appear on an email, but then when you click on it and it reveals the actual email address, it could be a total different email. So be cognizant of that. Communicate outside of email whenever possible. This is really important. We do our life back and forth on email, and it really hurts us because we don't communicate face to face or on the phone. So limit transmission of information to parties that need it. Use the forward option rather than the reply. Why do you use the forward option? Because that fraudulent email, if you know that you're supposedly responding to Rich Pisani, but say the email that you got really wasn't from Rich Pisani. So you forward it and then you put in my name. And so now when you're answering that email, I'm getting this email and I'm going, hey, wait, I never sent you this email. This is garbage. So use the forward option whenever possible. Immediately delete or report unsolicited email spam from unknown. Just delete it. Just don't, do not open the email, or especially any of the attachments. Here is the very important, when dealing with your clients, remind clients to never wire money without double checking that the wiring instructions are correct and directly from the intended payee. Consider implementing a standard warning to your clients of the scam. There's plenty of email signatures that you can add to your email signatures. Warnings about transmissions and whatnot. Just make it very, very, very clear to your clients that you, as the realtor, will never send wiring instructions, and you should never be sending wiring instructions. And that if they get wiring instructions, to call the escrow company and verify those wire instructions are correct. That's very important. Work with IT and cybersecurity professionals to ensure that email accounts, online systems, and business practices are secure and current as possible. There are plenty of, like Norton Security and all of those. But a really important thing is to use a good password. Don't use the same password for all of your accounts. And also to use two-factor authenticity. That is that it's backed up by a phone number. What about, Mona, you're asking, what about leases? What do you mean, what about leases? Wherever there's an exchange of money, this is what it's in reference to. So, and leases, there's communication via email in regards to leases also. So this applies to real estate transactions, period. And that includes leases. So, and here I said, use two-factor authenticity with your email accounts. That is a backup when you're opening an email account or changing anything in regards to your email. We've all had it. There is a code that is sent to either a known email account of the user or a cell phone of the user that verifies you are you. Use secure email to transmit sensitive information, regularly change passwords, and review current cybersecurity experts on password requirements. Password requirements, we all want something that we can, remember, but they recommend random numbers and letters. Well, there are applications that will do that for you, that will create passwords and whatnot for various accounts, and you don't have to remember it. You just remember one password to this app, and it does things. One of them, I think I have one that's called, what is that called? It is called LastPass. And it will do that I don't have it do that because I changed my email, I changed my passwords and have characters and all that stuff in it. So be wary of free Wi-Fi. Public Wi-Fi in the Starbucks or in the airport. It's not really that secure. There's other people around that can, that can get into your computers and do what. That's why they suggest that you use a virtual private network, a VPN, when using unsecured networks. And it tells you that it's unsecured, just so you know. Okay. This is in regards to title. If there is a fraud that occurs, the account holders should contact the financial institution immediately upon discovering the fraudulent transfer and request a recall due to fraud. A lot of times it's too late and the money is gone. But sometimes it has been known to, like Wells Fargo, I've heard of a couple of cases where Wells Fargo was doing the transfer and they were able to reverse it. But most of the time it's a loss. That's why it's $1.8 billion lost in these scams. But as soon as anybody becomes aware of any of this, start reporting it to everybody who will listen, including the police. So that's it. Let's see if anybody has any questions in regards. Anybody? It's really cut and dry, but like we're all getting these texts from Many or from Kim saying, are you there? I just got one the other day. I think it was from Stephanie. Are you there? Can you do a task for me? And it was like, okay, I know Stephanie doesn't talk that way and she wouldn't text me that way. So I immediately texted her and said, I think you've been spoofed here. And that's, I didn't know it, but that's smishing, SMS, smishing. So that's a cyber attack using text. So we've all gotten those, like they are, they're legitimately from somebody we know, a text from somebody we know. And hey, can you do something for me? I've known somebody who has transferred thousands of dollars to somebody based on a text. And it's, they trusted that it was coming from the person that they said it was coming from, and they were a victim of this scam. So it happens. So be wary. If something seems out of the ordinary, like you get a text from me saying, hey, can you do a task for me? Can you go get 10 gift cards? And I'm never going to ask you to get a gift card. There is nothing that's so urgent that I need a gift card for. So so be wary of it and report it to your team leader or to your office administrator as soon as you get it. So that's smishing, and phishing is the email version, and vishing is the video or phone the caller ID masking. So any questions regarding fraud and cybersecurity?
I think Mona and Mary had a question.
I think I answered that.
Oh, you did? Okay.
About the lease. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I don't see any. So short class, but it's an important subject to relay. The most important thing is that you will never send wiring instructions to your clients. Never. And you never should. You should, and that any wiring instructions always should be verified with the escrow officer over the phone. Don't email, say, oh, are these right? Because if it's spoofed, then they're going to say, oh yeah, it's right. So always verify it over the phone by calling the escrow company. Okay. All right. So I think that's it. Thank you for your time, and stay healthy, safe, and happy selling. All right. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Rich.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And then you